We think we're swiping for love, but we're actually opening our doors to strangers. We forget that a dating app isn't just a place to find a partner. For some, it's a digital hunting ground. I used to think I was safe. I thought I knew how to spot a lie. I was wrong. Those 4 stories are the reason I'll never go back online. From the girl who never existed to the man whispering my name outside my bedroom window. These aren't bad dates. These are the moments I almost disappeared. Listen closely, because your next match might be your last. I hopped on Tinder last October just to get back out there, but to this day, I still get the chills thinking about who I actually matched with. On the app, she went by Ashley. Her profile looked totally normal, just a cute brunette who did some graphic design and liked hiking. No crazy filters, no influencer vibes, just a regular girl. We talked for about a week. She seemed really down to earth, No weird red flags. In fact, she was the one who suggested we take it slow, which was a nice change of pace. We eventually made plans to grab dinner on a Wednesday night. She picked a place called Joe's Grill over on 5th Street. A quiet spot, nothing over the top. That night, I pulled my Ford into the lot and shot her a text saying I was there. Nothing. I stood by the front door for 10 minutes, checking my phone every 30 seconds. Then 20 minutes passed. I figured maybe she was just stuck in traffic. I headed inside, stood by the hostess stand, and messaged her again. Honestly, I started feeling like a total loser. Just some guy getting stood up on a first date. The hostess checked the book and told me nobody named Ashley had a reservation. 30 minutes had gone by, and I was literally reaching for my jacket to leave, when this guy walked through the door and came straight for me. He looked to be in his late 40s, scruffy, kind of a big dude, wearing a heavy charcoal hoodie. He walked right up into my personal space and asked, "Are you Chris?" It caught me off guard because my name wasn't even on the booking. I told him, "Yeah, that's me." He said he was Ashley's brother. He started telling me that Ashley suddenly felt sick, but she supposedly wanted to meet me so badly that she begged him to come pick me up and bring me to their place. He said they lived just a few blocks away, and she didn't want to cancel the date. The whole story felt off immediately. I asked why she didn't just text me herself. He claimed her phone died, and she was super embarrassed about the whole thing. His tone was calm, even polite, but something in his eyes was just cold. He told me it would be easier to just jump in his car because the sidewalks were freezing over. I stood there debating it. Part of me didn't want to be a jerk. What if she really was sick? But the other part of me was screaming that none of this was normal. I told him I'd just walk and asked for the address. He got real quiet. And then he said, "It is better if I just show you the way." That is when my stomach dropped. I told him I'd rather just reschedule and started backing toward the door. He stepped right in front of me. He didn't shove me, but he blocked my path. He started pressuring me, saying Ashley would be devastated because she was waiting. I just told him I'd text her later and brushed past him. He stared at me for a few seconds, then said, "Have a good night." But the way he said it, it sounded more like a warning than a goodbye. I practically ran to my car and locked the doors. As I pulled out, I looked in the mirror. He was standing on the sidewalk, just watching me drive away. At 11 o'clock that night, my phone buzzed. A message from Ashley. "Why didn't you come?" I replied that her brother showed up and said she was sick. She messaged back instantly. "I do not have a brother." My heart stopped. I told her exactly what happened, and then she went dark. Total silence. At 1 in the morning, my phone started exploding. Someone was trying to log into my email, my bank, my Instagram, all within 5 minutes. The next morning, Ashley's profile was gone, completely deleted. At noon, I got a text from a random number. "You should have come with me." Then more kept coming from different area codes. "We saw you. Do not waste my time next time." Then a message came through that used my full legal name. Not my profile name, my real name. That night, someone knocked on my apartment door. I froze on the couch, barely breathing. A minute later, there was another knock, much harder. I crept up to the peephole and looked out. The hallway was empty. Then I heard heavy footsteps walking down the back stairs. The next day, I called Joe's Grill. The hostess told me something that made my blood run cold. A server had noticed a guy in a hoodie pacing outside the windows for nearly an hour before I even showed up. He was just waiting for the moment I walked in. I went to the police, but they couldn't do anything. I changed my number and went off the grid. A week later, I went to take the trash out. Tucked under the handle of the dumpster was a folded piece of paper. Inside was a printed photo of me. It was taken from outside the restaurant window, the night of the date. Me, standing by the hostess stand, looking at my phone. On the back, in thick black ink, it just said, "You." I haven't been on a dating app since. I feel like I was supposed to vanish that night. And the only reason I'm still here is because I trusted my gut at the very last second. I still don't know who he was, and I don't think I ever want to find out. After I hit the big 3-0 back in January, I realized I was officially done with being single. It had been a solid few years since I'd been in anything serious, and I figured it was time to put myself back out there. I'd always been skeptical about online dating, but I eventually decided to bite the bullet and download Bumble. After a couple of days of swiping, I finally got a notification that changed everything. I had matched with a girl named Sarah. Her profile looked like the real deal. She had a shot of herself at the office, a video of her playing pool at a dive bar, a photo at a music festival. She was gorgeous. We hit it off immediately, talking about our jobs and what we did for fun. She seemed totally normal, so I asked if she wanted to meet up at an arcade bar called the Rusty Anchor that Friday. It took her a while to get back to me, about 4 hours, but at nearly 1 in the morning, she finally messaged me back and agreed to the date. Once the plans were locked in, I didn't hear a single word from her for 4 days. Total radio silence. Then, literally 30 minutes before we were supposed to meet, I got a text. "On my way. See you at our time." I pulled up to the bar on Miller Avenue, and I was immediately confused. This was a Friday at 8 in the evening, but the place looked dead. Only 2 cars in the entire lot. I pulled into a spot right near the front. Just seconds after I put my truck in park, my phone buzzed. It was Sarah. She said she was having engine trouble and had to park on the far side of the building. That immediately struck me as incredibly sketchy. The far side of that bar was nothing but a row of dumpsters and a chain-link fence that backed up into a thick patch of woods. It made 0 sense why she would even end up back there. I tried calling her, but after 1 ring, it went straight to voicemail. I hung up and immediately got another text. It said, "Please just come around back and help me with my car." Alarm bells started screaming in my head. I wasn't going to play along. I sent a text back. "This does not feel right. I am leaving." I know that might sound paranoid, but I was seriously freaked out. I threw the car in reverse and started backing out. Just as I was about to swing toward the exit, 2 men in black balaclavas came sprinting out from behind the building. They were heading straight for my driver's side door. I didn't see if they were holding weapons, and I wasn't sticking around to find out. I floored it. I didn't stop until I was back at my apartment. When I finally got out of the truck, I saw it. A massive dent on the roof of my trunk. One of those guys must have slammed a heavy rock or a brick onto my car as I was speeding away. I was so terrified, I didn't even hear the impact. The police couldn't do much. The profile was likely fake, and the phone was untraceable. Weirdly enough, it didn't scare me off dating apps for good. I figured the odds of that happening twice are pretty low. But man, I am way more careful now. I make sure to FaceTime every girl before I even think about meeting up in person. Trust your gut. It's usually trying to tell you something. I still remember the summer of 2023 like it was yesterday. Those humid Chicago nights. And that constant weight in my chest because my bar exam was only a few months away. I was buried under law books, and honestly, I just needed a distraction. That's when I met Jason. At first, he was perfect. Calm, funny, and he always knew exactly when to text back. We talked every night. Before I knew it, I was lying on my mattress staring at the ceiling for hours, just listening to his voice. But the red flags were there. He never showed his face on video. Broken camera, stolen phone, there was always an excuse. And then there was his tone. The second things got even remotely flirty, he would demand explicit photos. Every single time. I shut it down, but it was like talking to a wall. We'd argue, he'd sulk, he'd apologize, and then ask again the next day. My friends tried to warn me. My buddy Chris asked me, "Does he seriously not even flash his face for a second?" I defended him. I made up excuses. They looked at me like I was crazy. Then came December. I invited him for New Year's, and to my shock, he said yes. I pictured this perfect holiday. But the day before he was supposed to show up, everything shattered. He called me, sobbing. He finally choked out the words, "I am a catfish." He confessed it all. The photos, the job, the life, all a lie. He sent a photo of his real face. He said he was 24, but he looked like someone's 40-year-old uncle. I told him we were done, and he snapped. He blamed me. He begged me to let him stay anyway. I blocked him on everything and thought it was over. I was so wrong. Fast forward almost a year. I was back on Instagram posting my photography. I'd forgotten we still followed each other. One night, a message request popped up. I didn't even open it. I just tossed my phone aside. But the notifications kept coming. Finally, I opened the chat to block him, and my blood turned to ice. There, sent just minutes ago, was a photo of the front of my parents' house. I was home alone. I locked every door, ran upstairs, and barricaded myself in my room while I dialed 911. While I was on the line with the dispatcher, I heard it, a heavy pounding on the front door. He was outside, screaming my name, telling me to just open up so we can talk. Thank God the police station was close. I heard the sirens, then shouting, and then silence. They arrested him right there on the lawn. When the officer came to the door to check on me, he looked pale. He told me that when they tackled Jason, he was carrying a serrated knife. I had to grab the door frame to keep from collapsing. He came to my house with a weapon. I don't know what his plan was, and honestly, I don't want to know. I had to tell my parents everything. My mom held me for a long time that night. Thinking back to that officer's words, he had a knife. It still gives me chills to this day. Be careful who you let into your life, because you never truly know who is on the other side of that screen. Gemini said, "Here is the English adaptation of the Mia/Dave story for the Liam voice in 11 Labs. I have split it into 2 parts with specific pacing and emotional markers to create that chilling, immersive atmosphere. Part 1. The Red Flags. Tone. Calm, slightly tired. The voice of someone looking for connection but slowly realizing something is wrong. I've never really been much of a dating app guy, but after a long relationship ended, I realized my social skills were basically non-existent. Friends told me Coffee Meets Bagel was the spot to find someone real. I signed up, and within a few days, I matched with Mia. She was stunning. Short, dark hair, olive skin, clearly spent a lot of time at the gym. We moved over to Instagram pretty quickly. She had thousands of followers, mostly guys leaving thirsty comments, but she looked just as good in her stories as she did in her photos. We agreed to meet for a drink that same night at a local spot called the Copper Tap. I got there 10 minutes early. I ordered an old-fashioned and started digging a bit deeper into her profile. And that's when I got a bad feeling in my gut. No tagged photos, no women interacting with her, just men. Right around then, a guy sat down on the stool next to me. Late 30s, patchy beard, a little overweight. He started talking, claiming he recognized me. I tried to be polite, but I wasn't in the mood. I checked Mia's following list one more time, and it hit me. She didn't follow a single woman. Not one. It was a total setup. Her dating profile was already gone. I asked for my tab, but this guy, Dave, wouldn't let it go. He kept pushing me to stay, saying the hot girls usually show up later. I was standing up to leave when I felt a sudden tight grip on my wrist. He lunged at me. I snapped at him, "What the hell are you doing?" He leaned in close, almost touching my ear, and he whispered with this twisted expression, "I am Mia. Please do not go." I felt a wave of pure nausea. I ripped my arm out of his grip and bolted for the door. The drive home was dead silent. I didn't even turn on the radio. I was just trying to process how violating that felt. When I got home, I collapsed onto my bed. Mia's Instagram account was already deactivated. I just wanted to sleep and forget the whole thing. I turned off the lights, and that's when I remembered why I hated living on the first floor. A massive, aggressive bang rattled my bedroom window. The blinds were shut, so I couldn't see out, but someone was right there, on the other side of the glass. I stayed perfectly quiet in the dark. I didn't move. I just watched those blinds in total horror. And then, a man's voice started calling my name from the darkness outside. "Derek. Derek." He said it over and over. He knew I was in there. He could see the light from the TV through the cracks. He had followed me home from the bar, and I hadn't even noticed. He called my name at least 10 times before I finally heard his footsteps fade away. I didn't leave my bedroom for the rest of the night. The next morning, I lifted the blinds and saw a note taped to the outside of the glass. It said, "I will be watching you." I didn't leave my apartment for the rest of the weekend. 3 days later, I packed my things and moved out. Trust your instincts.
Because sometimes the person you're talking to isn't just a lie, they're a predator.
Subscribe for more real horror stories. Like the video if you felt this fear too.